Hi, my name is Crystal Robichaux. I am in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I live here, and this is where I will be finishing this course and the rest of my master's degree in health education and behavior. Um, from UF, I am in my last semester of the program, taking my last two courses. And so I'm very excited to be graduating in August. Um, I chose postpartum depression as my women's health topic of focus for this project. And I selected this topic because I have experienced postpartum depression myself, as well as postpartum psychosis. And I also work with newborns and new mothers on a daily basis in primary care. So I'm very passionate about health education and mental health screening for new moms, just to advocate for them so they can advocate for themselves, and so that they know that they're not alone, and that if they are experiencing the symptoms of postpartum depression or any other related um, mental illness, such as postpartum anxiety, postpartum psychosis, um, that it is a completely natural thing to happen when your body goes through such a shift and a change, and the stressful circumstances that surround caring for a newborn, with all of the logistics that may not be easy, such as um, you know, childcare logistics, not enough paid leave, no familial support, poor marriage connection, things like that, and especially sleep deprivation can exacerbate any of the symptoms of postpartum depression. Um, and, and that is most likely any mother who has recently given birth. I know that personally, I didn't sleep for 5 days for after the birth of each of mine, and that was, I don't know, biology, adrenaline. If I was in the wilderness, I would have needed to stay awake for 5 days to make sure my baby survived. But you know, um, and so that can be very taxing and difficult to deal with. Um, I I learned some really interesting things doing this study. One was that postpartum depression can cause behavior issues and emotional issues, as well as lead to ADHD in children of mothers who develop postpartum depression. And I found that very interesting because my oldest son, who I had postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis with, had very severe and significant emotional and behavioral health issues when he was younger. He's 8 now. We have it manageable, and he functions wonderfully now on medication and through therapeutic processes. But from the ages of 2 to 5, I I, I could barely leave him in daycare a full day without having a phone call or having to come get him because of his behavior issues. And that was a long road, but we have figured it out. But I find that very interesting because there seems to be a very strong correlation between postpartum depression and those behaviors in children. So that was a really cool personal bit of information that I found. Um, Another really cool thing is that the FDA has now approved the first oral medication, that is created specifically to treat postpartum depression. There were studies conducted, and they were able to identify a few more genetic factors and pinpoint certain hormone levels that greatly affect women after childbirth and increase the risk of postpartum depression. So they were able to create a medication specifically for that, and I think that's incredible. And the other thing that I really appreciate about the information that I learned while doing research for this project was hearing accounts of other mothers and what they had been through. Because if you, like me, have experienced postpartum depression, any type of depression, but specifically PPD, um, or anything related to that, you know that it can be very lonely and very isolating because it's not something you want to tell people about. Because, for one, you may feel crazy. I felt crazy. I didn't want to tell anyone the thoughts that were going on in my mind, the intrusive thoughts, the harmful things that I was imagining happening to my baby. And those things are very scary because you don't know why it's happening. Um, and you think that you're crazy. And honestly, I thought that if I told the doctor that what I was thinking and feeling, they would take my baby away from me. And I suffered in silence, and I did not get treatment, nor did I realize what I had until a few years after the fact. And so that is why I am a huge advocate for this topic. It's because I know that women will suffer in silence, um, and they don't have to. There is help, and there is, you know, just through simple education alone, of knowing that these things that you're going through mentally and physically are completely common, um, and you're not alone. uh, and learning that I wasn't alone in hearing some of the things that mothers went through was was just really refreshing and reassuring. And I know that young mothers and new mothers of all ages would benefit from more education on this topic, and also raising awareness um, to loved ones and family members of mothers who've just given birth, so they know what to look for, because it doesn't just affect mom, it affects the entire family. And it affects dads as well. Dads can develop symptoms of postpartum depression. It's a big responsibility to care for mom and baby and maybe an entire family, of more than three. I mean, um, and so that is not something that is isolated to mothers. Now, majority of the time it does affect the mom, but I always make sure to check in with the dads and see how they're doing as well, because it's a lot. Having kids is tough, and I'm sure most of you know that, or you will sometime in the future. And I think, yeah, just to recap, I just want to help break the stigma and shame around postpartum depression, and I want to raise awareness. And I just know that if hearing that you're not alone and that what you're going through is normal, um, can make all the difference in the world for a struggling mother. So, thank you for listening, and have a good night.